Good morning, friends. Today we'll discuss something on springs. What is spring, types of springs, and design procedure of various springs that we use in the normal practice. What is a spring? Spring is a device used to store energy, and the energy is released whenever it is needed. For example, we have springs for clamping the machine tool slides. We have springs in the shock absorbers of automobiles. We have springs in the ballpoint pens. They come back to the original shape when the force is removed. Springs are also very commonly used in automobile inlet and outlet valves of engines. The valve is closed normally with the help of the spring. When you want to open the valve, the cam will open the valve, and when the cam goes back, the spring will close the valve. Also, we have seen spring-loaded safety valves where spring force is used to normally close the valve. When the pressure inside the cylinder increases, the spring will compress and release the extra pressure. So springs are basically elastic bodies. What are the various materials we use for the springs? There is a table given in page number 20-15 of volume 1, table number 2010. There's so many 2 pages table is there, so many materials are there. The commonly used materials I have listed down here from the table. Hard drawn high carbon steels, oil tempered steels, very commonly used ones. Stainless steel springs where rusting and all is to be avoided. Inconel, Monel, chrome vanadium steel, silico-manganese steel, phosphor bronze. Phosphor bronze is a non-ferrous element. Titanium, music wire, jet nickel, etc. These are some of the materials listed down in the table which are commonly used for springs. Then application of springs, we have seen application of springs. Apply force and control motion. Brakes, for example, brakes and clutches, IC engine valves. And then spring balance we have seen. There is a tension spring at the bottom of which we hang the weight and see the value of the weight using the spring balance. Storing energy and give out whenever needed. Example, watches and toys, we wind the spring and we release the spring, so the toy will work, the watch will work. There is a torsion spring inside that. Absorb energy and reduce shocks, like in case of automobiles we have the shock absorbers surrounded by the springs. Two-wheelers you have got backside springs are put along the shock absorber, and in buses and trucks there are laminated springs to absorb the shock there. To maintain contact with mating members like cam and follower, you should always touch with each other. So spring is compressed and kept there so that the follower will always be in contact with the cam. The types of springs classification. Helical springs are very commonly used ones. They are classified into 3 types: tension springs, compression springs, torsion springs. Tension springs we have seen in stand, motorcycle stand and the cycle stand, there is a spring which is a tension spring. Compression springs are also seen on the motorcycle rear shock absorbers. You have got railway wagons, below the railway wagon there are coil springs there. Torsion springs are used in watches, toys, and in the school days we were using a writing pad with a clip. There is a torsion spring inside the clip there. When you open the clip and close automatically by the spring. Leaf or laminated springs are also used in automobiles, lorries and trucks and cars. Volute springs are not very common. Where the space requirement is very stringent, we go for volute springs. Disc or belly springs are used for very high clamping force and less deflection. Some figures we will see here. So this is You see a cam and a follower here. A spring is compressed and kept here. Always the spring will try to push the follower touching the cam. When the cam is rotating downward, the spring will push it backward, and the contact is always maintained between the cam and the follower. This is again a cam and the follower. There is a spring here which is compressed and kept there. These are tension springs which are used in internal expanding brakes. There are brakes here and there are two springs here, internal expanding springs, which will allow the brake shoes to come back when the brake is released. The classification of springs are helical springs, which we talk about. Helical springs, we have seen three types are there. Tension spring called extension spring, compression spring, and a torsion spring. This tension spring, you can see, I told you already that on a motorcycle side stand and cycle stand, we have got this spring like spring balance, which is very close coiled. You see the coils are very close touching each other, whereas a compression spring, there is a gap. This is a typical spring used in your ballpoint pen. When you press the ballpoint pen, the spring will compress, push the writing part outside. Then we have a torsion spring used in the clips, torsion with clips, and then where we want the torque, door closures and all that. Spiral springs, these are also torsion springs basically used in watches and toys. This is the leaf spring which you see behind the lorries and buses. Is also called laminated because so many layers are there. Leaf and laminated spring. This is a disc spring or a belly spring, looks like a washer. It's a washer here, and then a slight gap is maintained here like a hat. When they compress, the deflection will be taking place, small deflection for very high loads. Coming to the first type of springs, helical compression springs. The symbols that we are going to use are F is the axial load, the load acting along the axis of the spring is the axial load which will compress the spring. Small d is the wire diameter, this is the small d wire diameter. Then we have got the mean coil diameter from the center of one side to the center of the other side is the mean coil diameter. Two important things: what is the diameter of the wire, from which wire the spring is wound into coil, what is the diameter of the coil. That is, the two dimensions are important for the spring: wire diameter, mean coil diameter. Then we have the ratio of mean coil dia to the wire diameter is called a spring index. It is a ratio of mean coil diameter to the wire diameter. Capital D by small d is the spring index. Why is the deflection under load? L0, free length. The total height of the spring is called free length because it is not under load condition, free from load condition. As it is the spring, if you take and measure the height without any load, free from load is called free length. Free length is height of the spring without any external load. Then comes to, there is a curvature factor defined by Wall, W-H-A-L. Wall is a scientist who has written a textbook on helical springs. He has done a lot of experimentation. He has given a curvature factor given by a small equation like this: 4c minus 1 by 4c minus 4 plus 0.615 divided by c. It is given as 2023 page number 20-8 volume 1. This is curvature factor. I is number of active coils. You should understand what is active coil. That means there is something which is not active in the spring. If the springs are manufactured, this is the general very commonly wound spring. The last coil and the first coil, you see, they are not done anything here. So it is inclined here. When you apply load here, load will not be sitting comfortably on this because there is a point contact here. So there is a customary that this last coil and first coil, we fold them back. Take a cutting plier, this fellow will make it horizontal like this. See here the difference between this coil, which is inclined here, and this coil is folded back here. Last coil and the first coil, they are made horizontal, perpendicular to the axis. It is made horizontal. This is called squaring. This process is called squaring. Tri-square is used for maintaining 90 degrees. Square means 90 degrees. This last coil and first coil, half of coil, we take a cutting plier and fold it back horizontal, is called squaring process. Instead of folding, grind the top and bottom of the spring here. This is like a ground surface at the top and bottom here, is called ground surface. These two are also not very comfortable because the load will sit only half the distance here, or half the distance, another half the distance is inclined. So the best condition is in the springs is always squared and ground. First you square it 90 degrees, then grind the surface. It becomes a perfect horizontal surface here, squared and ground. So in this process, in the plane ends, we don't lose any coils here. All the coils will contribute to the deflection. All the coils will contribute to the deflection. So active number of coils is same as actual coils. Whereas in a condition like plane, that is ground ends or squared ends, there is half coil at the top, half coil at the bottom. Half coil at the top and bottom are lost for making it flat, and they don't contribute to the deflection. So we have to have, if you want 10 active coils for deflection, we should manufacture the spring with 11 coils, so that half coil at the top, half at the bottom is gone for making it flat. In case of squared and ground ends, we lose one full coil at the top, one full coil at the bottom. So two coils to be extra here. Active number of coils are useful coils for deflection. Actual or total number of coils is always plus something. This n is extra number of coils to be added depending on the end condition. If there is a plain end conditions, no extra coils required, n is 0. For plain end or squared ground end or squared ends, we have got one coil extra. For squared and ground ends, we have to have two coils extra. This is also given in data handbook, and also we have a table 20-14. Tau is the shear stress. Helical springs are subjected to shear stress. Tau is the shear stress. G is the rigidity modulus. Normally 80,000 we take whenever it is not given for steels. And table 20-10 page 2015 gives you the various materials and their properties with respect to the tensile stress, torsion stress, modulus of elasticity, modulus of rigidity. This table gives the values of elastic properties, torsional properties, and helical springs we use torsional properties, and torsional elastic limit we take it as tau y from the table divided by factor of safety. Factor of safety for springs is around 1.5 to 2, and then find out the allowable stress. We also define a term called F naught is called stiffness. Stiffness is load required for unit deflection. Load required for unit deflection, F by Y, is called stiffness. It is the ratio of load per unit deflection. It is also called as spring rate or spring scale. P is another word we use for the pitch. It is the distance between two consecutive side-by-side coils. Pitch is the distance between two side-by-side coils. LW is the length of the wire required to manufacture the spring. Suppose you want to make 10 coils of 100 diameter, how much length of the wire is required? Before we start manufacturing the spring, we should keep the wire ready. Right. So there is a derivation for the shear stress induced in the spring. There is a figure given 20-4 page 20-7. Apply a load is F here, and there is a mean coil diameter and wire diameter. As we have seen, spring will always have two important dimensions, mean coil dia and wire dia. Mean coil dia is capital D, wire dia is small d, and the force applied at the center into this radius gives you the torque in the coils. Torque is force into radius. MT is the symbol we have used for torque. Torque is F into radius R. R is capital D by 2. The equation of torsion, we all know that MT by J equal to tau by R. MT by J equal to tau by R. Where torque MT is given by F into R. R is capital D by 2. Then J is polar moment of inertia, the cross section. We have a circular cross section. For a circular cross section, J is pi d power 4 by 32, and R is the radius, is kept small d by 2, always small d by 2. Substitute all this in this equation. Torque F into d2 d by 2, then J value, then tau d by 2. Simplify this, we get the torsional shear stress given by 8Fd by pi d cube is the stress because of the torque. Also we have direct shear stress. Because the load is eccentric in nature, we have direct stress and the torsional stress. Direct shear stress is load by area. Area of a cross section is pi d square by 4. So this comes to 4F by pi d square. F divided by pi by 4 d square. So adding these two give you the total maximum resultant shear stress. Total shear stress is given by the shear stress due to torque plus the shear stress due to the direct axial load. Combine these two is the total value. What we have done to make it common and take common here, we multiply the second part with 2d and d. Then this becomes 8f capital D small d by 2 pi d cube d, like that we get. If you take this 8fd by d cube common, I am left with 1 here. Here we are left with 8 by 2d. So this capital D by small d is defined as the spring index C. Capital D by small d is spring index C. 1 by 2 is 0.5. So the final equation for shear stress is tau equal to 8F by pi d cube into 1 plus 0.5 by C. This 1 plus 0.5 by C is called curvature factor, sometimes called as capital K. Then coming to the design procedure. There are 7 steps in the design of helical spring. First and the foremost is to find out the wire diameter. What is the wire diameter we should use? From the equation of shear stress given by 8F dk by pi d cube is the shear stress equation. This d by d, if I can write it as one of them as C, capital D by small d I write as C, I am left with pi d square in the denominator. So the final equation will be 8F ck by pi d square. This is given as 2022, page number 8. 2022, 8F ck. This is what similar to this we have derived in the previous slide. 8F c by pi d cube into k value. But here k, after a lot of experimentation, Walsh has suggested a different equation for k. It is slightly more than 1 plus 0.5 by c. This is slightly more than that. Here if you consider this as 1 plus 0.5 by c was the old equation. Now it is slightly more than 1. 4c minus 1 by 4c minus 4 plus 0.615 divided by cc is the spring index. We find the k, substitute here, take allowable stress. From this equation we always find the wire diameter d required. Then immediately we can find out the mean coil dia. Then mean coil dia is C was defined as d by d, so d equal to C into small d. Outside diameter of the coil is d plus d. Inside diameter of the coil is d minus d. From the figure you can see this. Outside diameter is mean diameter plus 1/2 of the diameter on the right side, 1/2 on the left side. Add this. Similarly inside diameter. So these three are related to your mean coil dia and outside dia and inside dia of the coil. After the second step, third step is the deflection. How much the spring is giving us the deflection under the given load. Sometimes deflection is given. I want 100 mm deflection. How many coils should I use? Or if I have 10 coils, what will be the deflection? So these two are interrelated. If sometimes if the deflection y is given, then we find out the number of coils required to give you the deflection. If I have 10 coils here, what deflection does it give? So the equation is same. If y is given, find number of coils I. If I is given, find deflection y. Then free length L0, height of the spring, no? Free length L0 is I plus N into D plus Y plus A. This I plus N into D is called solid height of the spring. If all the coils are compressed completely and resting one above the other, suppose 4 coils are there, one above the other is resting, so 4 into D is the height. This is called the solid height of the spring. Then you require a deflection plus some reliability. A is called clearance, extra. Even if the load increases by small value, it should not become solid. A is always taken as 25% of the working deflection. It is given in page number 20-19. A small wording is given there that A is the clearance which is to be added while determining the free length of the spring and is made equal to 25% of the working deflection. This is what is printed there in the data handbook. A is the clearance which is to be added while determining the free length of the spring and is made equal to 25% of the working deflection. N depends on the end conditions. N equal to 0 for plane ends, N equal to 1 for squared or ground ends, squared or ground any one, N equal to 2 for squared and ground ends, both are done there. This is there also below this equation 2053, it is given below this. These two values are given there. Then we find out the pitch. While manufacturing the spring, we have to maintain the gap between the coils like thread. Coils, there will be like thread. So what is the pitch to be maintained? There is a table 20-14, page number 2018. For each condition of plane ends, ground ends, squared and ground ends, there is separate equation for pitch given. Since we always want squared and ground ends, we take this equation which is given there. Then stiffness, F0 is F by Y, load per deflection, 2030, page number 20-9. Then to manufacture the spring, what is the wire length required? Pi d I dash. Pi into d is the length of one circular ring. One coil, what is the length? Like that, how many coils are there in the spring? So what is the length of the wire? Pi d is the length of one coil into I dash, because I is useful coils for deflection. There are two or one coil we add depending on the end condition. So we need that also extra length. It is always I dash to be used here. I dash is given by I plus N. For our assumption, we always take N as 2 squared and ground ends. So this is the procedure. We'll see some problems in the second video. Here we have discussed types of springs, terminology of the springs, and design procedure for helical compression spring. Thank you very much. We'll come back for video 2 for the procedure of the problems on helical springs.